morning, you're watching Anewz. I'm Dilek Tuna. Here are the top stories for the hour. Iran and Israel launch more attacks as Trump weighs US involvement in the conflict. European ministers are to hold nuclear talks with Iran on Friday in Geneva. Russian President Vladimir Putin cautions Germany over any Taurus missile supplies to Ukraine. Trump says he hasn't decided on military action yet, despite reports that strike plans on Iran have already been approved. It comes as sirens sounded across Israel, as missiles were seen flying overnight across the country's skies, and Iranians were seen carrying their national flags through the streets of Tehran on Wednesday night.
It's reported that US President Donald Trump has approved military plans to strike Iran, but has held off on giving the final order, according to CBS News and the Wall Street Journal. US officials reportedly say Trump paused the decision in hopes that Iran might still agree to abandon its nuclear program, as Tehran denies having the capability of creating nuclear weapons. Publicly, Trump has echoed some uncertainty and hesitancy, and he says he could leave his decision to the last minute.
I have ideas as to what to do, but I haven't made a final. I like to make the final decision 1 second before it's due, because things change. I mean, especially with war, things change with war. It can go from one extreme to the other.
He added that Iran should have made a deal and posted online that US patience is wearing thin. At a Senate hearing, US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said American forces are prepared to carry out any order given by the president and confirmed that additional assets, including 2 aircraft carrier groups, are being moved into the region. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, responded in a televised speech, calling any US military action dangerous and saying the Iranian nation will not surrender. Following the speech, hundreds of Iranians were seen carrying their national flags out on the streets of Tehran Wednesday night, while Reuters reported traffic jams as thousands tried to leave the capital city. It comes as the conflict between Israel and Iran enters its 7th day of exchanging airstrikes on each other. Drone and missile attacks intensified overnight. Early Thursday, Iran's authorities say their air defenses intercepted drones on the outskirts of Tehran, according to the SNN news agency. Iranian media also reported the arrest of what they're calling 18 suspected enemy agents accused of building drones for Israeli attacks in the city of Mashhad. At the same time, Israel said it had intercepted 2 drones launched from Iran and that sirens sounded in the Jordan Valley and northern parts of the country. Israel says its military is continuing to strike nuclear and missile facilities across Iran. According to the US-based group Human Rights Activists, 585 people have been killed in Iran since the strikes began, including 239 civilians and 126 security personnel. In response, Iran has launched around 400 missiles toward Israel, killing 24 civilians, according to Israeli authorities.
Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump's hesitancy in the conflict between Iran and Israel is fueling growing anxiety across the states, as Americans express deep concern about the tense situation. They're worried not only about possible military involvement, but also the economic and human cost of being involved in a war in the Middle East.
As the Israel-Iran conflict enters its 7th day, US President Donald Trump is keeping the country and the world guessing about his next move. Now, Americans across the country are voicing concern to potential US military involvement. Many Americans say they fear the conflict could spill into a larger war, one that the US can't afford.
And it's their war. It's not our war. And I hope it doesn't become our war.
The price of fuel is another major concern.
In California, because I live in California, we pay the highest gas prices in the country. Because maybe here that means gas prices go from $4.50 to $6 is not a reason for me to see that lives of the Iranian people should be sacrificed for the benefit of our gas prices.
I don't know, I'm kind of used to expensive gas. I don't think we need to blow up the whole country to have cheap gas.
It could potentially do an awful lot of damage. Oil prices could spike. Food prices around the world could spike. It's going to probably cause a recession. It might cause inflation. It would not be, anything like this would not be good. And it would probably tank the stock market. So if Trump is concerned about business, which he seems to be, then he's playing with fire.
And for some, the warning signs feel far more serious. Cashier Jonathan Spencer sees echoes of history.
I'd say anyone who says they don't have a stake in this is just not paying enough attention to how war works and how things escalate. And I think if you consider that World War I and World War II, we didn't call it that until we were already several years into the conflict. So we might already be in World War III according to the history books 20 years from now. I think anyone who says that they're not involved in it, I think they got to pay a little bit more attention to it and hope that we stay out and hope that this can de-escalate as soon as possible.
But opinions vary. Some citizen believes the US should cut ties with Israel altogether, and some fears Trump has already made up his mind.
I think the United States needs to stop funding them. It's awful.
Oh, it's very concerning, but I feel like he's already kind of made up his mind. He's just trying to placate people, I think, because it's a very unpopular sort of situation that he's getting into.
What do you think is his decision about what he's going to do?
Oh, he's going to go to war. I think he is going to be having the U.S. involved in it.
President Trump told reporters outside the White House on Wednesday that he hasn't decided whether the United States will join Israel's military campaign, a campaign launched last week amid fears Iran was nearing nuclear weapons capability, a claim Iran denies. Later, he revealed Iranian officials had expressed interest in coming to Washington for talks, but added that it's a little late.
The United Nations Secretary-General says he's profoundly alarmed by the escalating military conflict between Israel and Iran. Speaking at the UN headquarters, Antonio Guterres' spokesperson urged both sides to halt all attacks immediately and called diplomacy the only path forward for regional stability.
All military attacks must stop now. He reiterates his call immediately to pursue de-escalation, leading to a ceasefire, avoiding at all costs the descent into a deeper conflict. For the Secretary General of the United Nations, diplomacy remains the best and only way to address concerns regarding Iran's nuclear program and regional stability in the region. I mean, for us, the framework remains the UN Charter. It remains international law. That is our framework to save people from the scourge of war, as it's clearly written in the Charter. And he urges all member states to comply fully with the Charter and international law, including international humanitarian law.
In our latest episode of the Context talk show, our Orkan Amashov discussed the complexities of the Israel-Iran conflict from the perspective of international reactions with Vlad Olteru, political analyst and senior European Union legal and policy expert, and Mehmet Öğütçü, former Turkish diplomat. Vlad and Mehmet shared their insights on the EU and the UN's recent responses to the rapidly escalating conflict.
There is, I think, a general perception that any nuclear development in military terms is very worrisome for the European Union and for the world probably, but for the European Union for sure. If we remember during the conflict in between India and Pakistan, which was a very short conflict, I'm not sure it's, for the moment it is part, I'm not sure it is resolved though. During that period, the European Union diplomacy was very, very active indeed to try to mediate as much as possible. Why? Because we had there the possibility of a longer conflict in between two nuclear powers. So whenever there is nuclear military use, there is a lot of nervosity in the Union. The Union wants to find a diplomatic solution or help find a diplomatic solution. In this case, it is not clear, though, although Iran developed really nuclear military applications, or although they were near to develop one?
First of all, about the legitimacy and legacy, whether it complies with the UN Security Council rules, I think we have to put all these concepts which we held in high regard in the past aside. Because in today's world, it's not international law, it's not sovereignty, it's not human rights. What matters is the power you have. And you exercise this power with great force. As we have seen in the case of Russia, occupying South Ossetia, Abkhazia, then in Ukraine, annexing Crimea, now Donbass, the war is going on. Tomorrow, perhaps China will act to claim Taiwan and else. So in today's world, that's we have to recognize international law is put aside.
Foreign ministers from UK, France and Germany are preparing to hold a meeting with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in Geneva on Friday, according to diplomatic sources who told Reuters. If confirmed, it would mark the first face-to-face diplomatic engagement since Israel launched a major strike on Iran's military and nuclear facilities. Tehran is yet to officially confirm Araghchi's attendance, though he held phone conversations earlier this week with the three European ministers. Friday's discussions are expected to focus on potential steps Iran may take to scale back or shut down parts of its nuclear program. Ahead of Friday's potential talks, British Foreign Secretary David Lammy is set to meet US Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Washington to discuss the Middle East. Russia has issued a stark warning to Germany as tensions escalate over Western military support for Ukraine. President Vladimir Putin says Berlin would be directly involved in the conflict if it sends long-range missiles to Kyiv. Putin has warned that Germany would cross a red line if it delivers Taurus cruise missiles to Ukraine. Speaking on Thursday, he said such a move would make Berlin a direct party to the conflict and claimed the weapons would do little to stop Russian advances across the front line. The warning comes just 2 days after a Russian missile strike devastated a residential area in Kyiv, killing at least 18 people and injuring more than 150. The United Nations Trade and Development Agency is planning to cut around 70 positions as part of its 2026 budget proposal. The decision comes during a period of increased demand for the agency's support in global trade, investment and technology issues.
UNCTAD, the UN's key body for trade and development, is set to lose around 70 staff positions in its upcoming 2026 budget, out of a total workforce of roughly 500. The move comes amid sweeping cost-cutting reforms across the UN system, driven by a decline in global donor funding and ongoing liquidity problems.
This is painful. There's no way to disguise this. We for UNCTAD, to cut the number of posts that we are cutting, that are have to be close to between 70 and 80, yes? We haven't got that number of posts ever in one budget. And so it really will constrain the organization and the things that we can do.
The cuts come at a time when more countries are requesting UNCTAD support and analysis in areas such as trade, tariffs, digital development and debt, while the agency is reducing its capacity.
From their debt pressure. And probably what worries me the most is the possibility to respond to countries in their needs fast enough. Right now, we have this paradox that the demand for our services in trade, investment, finance, debt, technology, digital, that is growing because these are the things that the countries are demanding. And on the other hand, our resources are going down.
UNCTAD isn't alone. The UN Secretariat is planning to slash its $3.7 billion budget by 20%, and agencies were recently given a deadline to submit proposals for reductions. Geneva's Human Rights Office may even vacate its historic headquarters at Palais Wilson to save costs. The final decision on UNCTAD's budget will be made in September by member states and the UN Secretariat. But for now, its future capacity to support developing economies remains uncertain as global challenges keep growing.
The war in Sudan has raged for more than 2 years, turning thriving cities into ghost towns and pushing millions to the edge of survival. As famine and deadly disease spread, the humanitarian crisis deepens by the day. Anewz journalists risk their lives to reach the heart of the conflict, gaining rare access to regions few dare to enter.
The war in Sudan has raged for over 2 years, turning thriving cities into ghost towns and pushing millions to the edge of survival. As famine spreads and deadly diseases like cholera take hold, the humanitarian crisis deepens by the day. Anewz journalists risk their lives to reach the heart of the conflict, gaining rare access to regions few dare to enter. Frontline Sudan Fight for Survival is an Anewz original documentary filmed on the ground in the ruins of Khartoum, Omdurman and beyond. For more than 2 years, Sudan has been gripped by a brutal conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the Rapid Support Forces. Entire cities have been destroyed, families torn apart, and millions displaced. But behind the numbers are real stories of survival, loss, and unimaginable resilience.
We are in Sudan, the country where the war has been going for almost 2 years. Entire cities have been emptied, millions forced to flee, and basic life, food, water, medicine has collapsed. This is the world's worst humanitarian crisis today.
In a rare and risky journey, the Anewz team gained exclusive access to Frontline abandoned just days earlier. The journalists walked through neighborhoods reduced to rubble, enter homes still bearing the scars of war. They spoke with survivors who lived through hunger, shelling, and the terror of militias.
Switching here was too hard to look people around you injured and killed and lost some of part of their body. It's too hard to look at blood and flesh.
They are my family and we suffer from water, food. There are no bees.
In Salha, southern Omdurman, Anewz became the first and still the only journalists to document what was left behind. Bodies lay in the streets. A mass grave hidden behind a wall revealed hundreds of victims. Many showed signs of torture, starvation, and execution.
This war is very, very dangerous for the region, not only for Sudan, because as you can see, there is a lot of drones involved now, coming from overseas, attacking electricity power supply, water supply. And this also can give a signal that the war is not really for implementing democracy and freedom, and it was really planned to destroy the country.
The United Nations has warned that 57% of Sudan's population, more than 25 million people, are now facing high levels of acute food insecurity. As the war drags on, farms have been destroyed, supply routes cut off, and markets left empty. At the same time, a deadly cholera outbreak is sweeping across the country. As of June 13, the World Health Organization reported 1,854 deaths in 13 states, with thousands of new cases emerging in recent weeks. In areas like Khartoum, entire families are falling ill, hundreds of cases and dozens of deaths reported in a single day.
Suffering from medicine, education, disease. Most of my neighbors, they are come out, and we live alone.
People can drink water without boiling it. Just drink it. Drink it as there are some biotics in it. There are a lot of bad things, in the water. It's not clean, it's not clear, it's not pure. Also the chlor, there is no chlor within the water. Like disease happened. A lot of people died here.
It took us 15 hours to come from Port Sudan to Khartoum. No flights, no functional airport, just a long road. This city recently declared fully liberated after months of brutal war. To report from here, we have to secure special permissions. Military checkpoints are everywhere. Khartoum recently declared fully liberated after brutal months of war. Now lies in ruins. Electricity is scarce. Clean water almost non-existent. And aid barely trickles through shattered infrastructure. For those who remain every day is a fight to survive amidst the debris of a city that once stood tall.
They weren't busy with the democracy, as they were saying. It was just a big robbery. It was armed robbery, nothing much or nothing more.
In an inclusive interview, Sudan's Minister of Culture and Information revealed crucial details about the involvement of foreign powers in the ongoing conflict. The minister confirmed that the Rapid Support Forces were part of the government before the war began, and now they are heavily armed with weapons from various Western countries.
We captured a lot of weapons from big countries like USA now. This headline coming up in this last 24 hours, there is a lot of involvement for the Americans' weapons in the hands of the RSF, which is helped them a lot to commit a lot of atrocities, big atrocities, genocide, displacing people. All this happened with Western countries' weapons, which is very dangerous.
Recently, French manufactured military technology exported in defiance of international law to Sudan have been found in the hands of the Rapid Support Forces. It is a clear violation of the United Nations arms embargo on Darfur.
There's one of us. He's killed not far away from the hospital.
He was killed?
Yes. When they are rocket, they are shelling outside of the hospital, maybe 20 meters from the hospital. They are guarding there. He's drink coffee. They are shelling happened. He was injured in his body in so dangerous place, and he died maybe after 10 minutes. His name is Sadiq Haider. He's the last one we lost him.
In Port Sudan, once considered a refuge, Anewz crew witnessed the moment a drone targeted the city yet again. But this time it met a strong response. Right now the city is in complete darkness because the electricity has been turned off. In the sky above, glowing drones fly quietly, their lights shining like small stars.
They took us by surprise on the first day on 4th of May, but now we are very well prepared to deal with anti-drones capabilities. But Port Sudan is a safe city, as you can see now.
What was uncovered paints a chilling picture of war crimes, hunger, disease, and silence. But it also reveals the unbreakable spirit of those who continue to fight, not with weapons, but with their will to survive and speak out.
الحاجة اللي حصلت دي تبقى تجربة وتبقى لنا عتب إنه نمشي لقدام نصلح الحاجات السيئة اللي كانت ونمشي لقدام عشان شنو؟
Sudan will be better. Inshallah.
Frontline Sudan Fight for Survival is not just a documentary. It's a call to remember what the world too often chooses to forget. Now streaming on all social media platforms of Anewz.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has called for the acceleration of the China-Kyrgyzstan-Uzbekistan railway construction at a meeting with Kyrgyz President Sadir Japarov in Astana during the China Central Asia Summit. Our Fariza Kalimurzina has the details.
President Xi Jinping urged speeding up the construction of the China-Kyrgyzstan-Uzbekistan railway during his meeting with Kyrgyz President Sadir Japarov on the sidelines of the China Central Asia Summit in Astana. She highlighted the strong potential of China-Kyrgyz cooperation and proposed expanding trade, investment and joint projects in emerging sectors. The railway set to connect China with Central Asia, Europe and the Middle East officially began construction in December 2024. The route spans 450 kilometers. Early estimates suggest the railway could transport between 7 and 15 million tons of cargo annually. Work on key sections such as bridges and tunnels started in April this year. A joint company was formed to oversee the project, with China holding a 51% stake and Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan each owning 24.5%. The construction is expected to take around 6 years. And currently, the only transport corridor from China to Europe and the Middle East runs through Kazakhstan via the Kyrgyz border crossing. The new route through Kyrgyzstan is 300 kilometers shorter, potentially cutting transport time by up to 5 days. Russia's position was previously seen as a challenge for the project. However, experts say Moscow's ability to block such initiatives is limited, partly due to its growing dependence on China amid the consequences of the war in Ukraine. This has given Beijing more freedom to reshape trade flows in Central Asia. However, considering the scale and complexity of the project, particularly the 260-kilometer mountainous section in Kyrgyzstan, quick progress is unlikely. Fariza Kalimurzina, Anewz in Almaty, Kazakhstan.
Kyrgyzstan has unveiled major projects worth about $200 million as the government is pushing reforms to improve the business climate. Our Fikret Dolukanov reports from Bishkek.
Kyrgyzstan is stepping up efforts to attract foreign investment and position itself as a regional player in Central Asia's economic landscape. This week, the country presented a portfolio of 8 investment projects worth around $200 million at the Central Asia-China Industrial and Investment Cooperation Forum held in Astana, Kazakhstan. The focus was firmly on agriculture, with proposals ranging from modern poultry farms and food processing plants to seed production and livestock breeding. The Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Samat Nasirdinev, reaffirmed Kyrgyzstan's openness to economic cooperation with both China and neighboring Central Asian countries, highlighting recent reforms to improve the business climate, including tax incentives and infrastructure support for priority sectors. Back home, right from the forum, President Sadyr Japarov told Parliament that several draft laws are now under review, aiming to further reduce the tax burden for entrepreneurs. Among them is a proposal to create a special financial and investment zone in Tamchy on the northern shore of Issyk-Kul, which would operate under a distinct legal and economic regime. The president called on MPs to back the reforms, stating that attracting investment and growing the national economy is a shared responsibility. Anewz, Fikret Dolukanov, Javid Aliyev, Kyrgyzstan.
The space of Mugam 7th International Music Festival has opened in Baku, bringing together performers from more than 25 countries. Our Aliya Aziz brings more from the venue.
At the Haydar Aliyev Palace, the space of Mugam 7th International Music Festival has officially begun here in Baku. Local Azerbaijani and international artists are showcasing their unique musical forms in front of the global audience. This concert hall is filled with excitement as people get to watch this week's performances. Organized by the Haydar Aliyev Foundation in collaboration with the Ministry of Culture, this festival marks a significant cultural moment dedicated to preserving and promoting one of Azerbaijan's most revered musical traditions, Mugam. Opening with a vibrant ceremony, the event welcomed artists, cultural figures, and international guests as the soulful echoes of Mugam filled the hall. This year's theme is Beati, an ancient and effective Mugam mode, known for its spiritual depth and melancholic tone. Rooted in Azerbaijani music, it also echoes through Turkish, Central Asian, Arab, and Persian traditions, reflecting Mugam's cross-cultural reach. The festival has drawn over 50 performers from more than 25 countries. This international turnout underscores the growing recognition of Mugam as a global art form and provides a platform for musical dialogue and cultural exchange.
Baku has turned into a center of promotion of traditional music of Eastern people. It's what we musicologists call traditional model music. So it is improvised and based on definite tone scales, which are very different. But at the same time, we have now the landscape of what is going on in different countries around this type of music.
We are representing the Uyghur Mugam World Contest from East Turkestan of China. We are very excited to be here at this festival. We love the Mugam music. We also have Uyghur Mugam music. I think you will all enjoy our performance.
Azerbaycan Mugam'ı bu bölgede çok önemli, çok mühim.
Azerbaijani Mugam is very important and significant in this region because it carries the most valuable values of ancient culture from the past. As you know, the center of this music is Shusha. That's why the performers, vocal artists in the Mugam festival have very huge value in this geography. As a person who is doing a doctorate in this geography, I am a person who knows the value of the Mugam festival.
The program features solo performances, group collaborations, and panel discussions focusing on the future of traditional music in a modern world. Local artists share the stage with international musicians, creating a diverse and enriching experience for audiences of all backgrounds. The event will continue through June 22nd, offering daily concerts, forums across multiple venues in Baku. It promises to be a week-long celebration of heritage, harmony, and the evolving narrative of Mugam music. The space of Mugam continues to serve not only as a cultural showcase, but as a bridge connecting generations, regions, and musical traditions.
These are the updates from Baku for now. Stay tuned to Anewz for more updates.